Right, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, now you can get your notes ready. We are going to start with our study. Now, today's sutta is not an easy one. It's quite a difficult one. So I've purposely chosen it for today to end the year. And I think this is probably the second time or the third time I've taught this sutta. Because to be honest with you, when I first looked at this sutta, I was quite afraid to teach it because it's talking about all those hellfire and all those sufferings, you know. And that's for the very same reason we should study it too. There is a way of studying such difficult suttas, and today I'm going to teach you how to do it. It took me many years, you know, like you can say 50 years to really see the meaning of this sutta. All right. First of all, this is a longer version of the Devaduta Sutta. Devaduta. Deva means, in this context, Deva means divine. It's an adjective. Dūta here, as you know, there's a Malay word dūta. It means ambassador, but here dūta means messenger. So Devaduta translates as divine messengers. So these are basically the sites. You remember the Buddha saw the 4 sites, right? So 3 of them, the first 3 are called divine. In fact, all the 4 are called divine messengers, but the first 3 are special. The first 3 are the 3 Ds. They represent decay, disease, death. But in this sutta, the Majjhima Devaduta Sutta, there are 5 divine messengers. It is based on an older sutta called the Yama Devaduta Sutta from Anguttara Book of Trees, A 3.35. And this is found in ST 48.10. So in the Yama Devaduta Sutta, there are only 3 messengers, which are the original 3 that, you know, the Bodhisattva saw, plus number 4, that's the renunciant. In this sutta, there are 5. We will find out what are the 5 messengers. Okay, why are there 5 in a while? Okay, so let me now give you a bit of introduction, preparation before we go on this special journey, quite a scary journey actually. Now, this study also commemorates what's called the Solstice. Today is 25th December, which is originally a solstice festival. The solstice is where the sun reaches down further south and then it starts coming back. Okay, so people in the northern hemisphere are very happy the sun's coming back, the warmth's coming back. So for Buddhists, this solstice means the return of the sun. The Buddha is sometimes depicted as the sun because he brings light into our life, awakening, enlightenment, right? So this return of the sun also means it's like, you know, this is a time of the year we ask ourselves with resolution, things like that. How am I doing as a Buddhist practitioner? Am I putting in enough effort? Where do I need to strengthen myself? Am I keeping the precepts well? Am I practicing mindfulness and meditation well? Things like that. How is my wisdom and so on? So this is a very important time of the year when we renew ourselves. So we can call it Buddhist Renewal Day, Dhamma Renewal Day. So this is one of those practices which I introduced a few years ago, and I hope people will think about this and spend this day, this period, renewing our practice, examine ourselves, what we should do, where we should go in Buddhist terms. So this is a kind of preparing ourselves also for a better year by studying the sutta. Now, in order to really appreciate this sutta, it's good to know some background stories. There are at least 2 famous stories to go with this. There are stories about monks, 2 monks, who because of their really good practice, keeping the precepts and their virtues and so on, they were kind of able to see the suffering states, the hells and the heavens. Okay? But today, of course, we're only looking at the suffering states. Actually, not two monks. One is a king, an ancient king called Nimi, from the Nimi Jataka, Jataka number 541. And the other one is a late story. I think it was written in Thailand, called Malay, or Malaya Thera, the elder Malaya. So these two individuals, in the case of the first, that is the king Nimi, because of his great virtue, the gods of the Tawatingsa, the Sakra and his 33 gods, they were impressed. So Sakra sent his charioteer Matali down and said, okay, let's invite this wonderful king to come to heaven. And while bringing him, this charioteer gave him a grand tour of the realms, if you like. Now, this is a story. This is a myth. Okay, a myth is a very important story with a psychological background, meaning it reflects certain deep psychological and spiritual truths in us. So, this is a journey we make in others. We go through life and we see people suffering, and we are not suffering, but we see people suffering. And if we are compassionate, we say, "Oh, look at all these poor people suffering. If only, why do they suffer like this? It's their karma." And if you're really compassionate, you want them to suffer less and quickly overcome their suffering. So this is your practice of compassion. So more than just practicing metta, loving kindness, today we need this practice of compassion. So when we see all these suffering states, we are not suffering, but we should not be afraid of the suffering, because we are not suffering, but we're seeing people facing their karma. But we're not, of course, not happy. We say, wow, these poor people are suffering. May their suffering quickly end. So we reflect in that way. That's the way how you should not fear these hell states. They're reminding us this is how karma works. Karma doesn't forgive anyone. Karma doesn't forget anyone. It comes when the time is right. But we can show compassion to these people who are suffering. The next thing we must remember when we look at this sutta today is let go, at least temporarily, of the three unwholesome roots: greed, hate, delusion. Just free yourself. Don't think about wanting this, wanting that. Don't think about anything you like or dislike. And just keep your mind right now, in the present moment, listening to my voice going up, going down, as this voice is impermanent here. And then very soon, after this is recorded, immediately it's recorded, you can listen to it again. I'm not there, but the voice is there. The voice is the earth element. You can hear my voice repeating, but there's no Piya there. It's just a voice. So that's a reflection on non-self, right? So when you reflect in this way, you say, okay, I'm seeing all these are stories. These are, the Buddha is telling us about how these people with bad karma suffer. And may they quickly overcome their suffering. May wisdom grow with them so that they don't suffer again. May I not create bad karma to go through such suffering too. So you see this suffering from afar. There's nothing to fear. You only fear the suffering when you're attached to your body. You identify with your body, right? So this is the first fetter that the stream winner overcomes, Sakaya Ditti, right? Self-identity view. So here is where if you don't identify with the body, you don't feel the pain, or you minimize the pain. You're not worried about it, right? So you say, okay, if I'm suffering, okay, my body is suffering, but my mind will not suffer. Remember the parable of the two arrows in the Salatena Sutta, where the Buddha said for a wise person, he's struck by one arrow, that is the body arrow, and the body feels pain. It's natural for the body to feel suffering. But the mind doesn't suffer. So you see in this sutta later on, there's mention of the mind also, right? So there's nothing to fear, even though you read all these scary and frightening descriptions of the hell states. It is for those who have lots of defilements, who have done habitually a lot of wrong things, and they enjoy doing all these wrong things, and then the time comes when they have to face their karma. So it's scary to them, but not to us, because we've done nothing wrong. We're not attached to our body. We show compassion to those who suffer. This is how we protect ourselves. Remember, like Nimi and the elder Malaya, okay? They are compassionate people and they are practitioners. Another one last point is there is an important sutta called the Neyata Nitata Sutta from the Anguttara 2.3.5 and 2.3.6. This is found in ST 2.6b. This sutta is very short. The Buddha tells us whenever you read the sutta, you got to examine what level is he talking. There are two levels. The first level is called the explicit level. That means the meaning has been brought out. The direct meaning, for example, the Buddha talks about the 5 aggregates, talks about the precepts, talks about impermanence. Those are direct teachings, explicit teachings. So we take them as they are like that. Impermanence is impermanence, right? Then elsewhere, the Buddha will tell stories. The Buddha will say there was this king, there's this place, this thing happened, you know. So the hell states are stories, right? The Buddha is showing how suffering occurs to people who have bad karma. So this is called the implicit teaching. You have to ask yourself, what does this mean? What is the Buddha teaching us here, right? So this is the second kind of teaching, the implicit. All right. So remember, these are the two teachings. We have to apply them accordingly. Okay, with that, now we look at the sutta. Okay, you can see here the very first page. Huh? Okay, Majjhima Devaduta Sutta. Majjhima means this is from the Majjhima Nikaya. Because there are a number of Devaduta Suttas, okay, so there are 2 or 3 of them. So just to be sure, we know exactly which one we're talking about. In the Sutta Discovery series, we make a lot of effort to name suttas properly. One reason is because in the past I've often faced difficulties. Which sutta is this? You know, people listen to Dhamma talks, then they come to me. They say, "Oh, you know, this monk mentioned this sutta." You know, and I say, "What sutta?" So you know this sutta. I say, "Which one?" You know, we couldn't identify. So you either know the name of the sutta or the number. Now, so if we look at the second line, it's the translation of the Pali. The Majjhima is not translated because the Majjhima Nikaya, Discourse on the Divine Messengers, Devaduta, Divine Messengers. M130. Okay, so either you remember M130, this is what we're studying today, or the Majjhima Devaduta Sutta. If you think Majjhima Devaduta is too long, just remember Devaduta. The Majjhima will come naturally. Now, for those of you who are serious scholars, we have another name for this sutta. You know, one sutta has a number of names, sometimes more than 2 names. The second name is Pañca Devaduta Sutta. Now, brackets means I've added that prefix or that name to disambiguate it in order to make it unique. Pañca Devaduta Sutta, the discourse on the 5 divine messengers. So this is also another way to remember it. Okay. The next line is the Chinese versions. You have quite a number. Seems very popular. You find in a number of places in the Chinese translations. Okay, so these are from the first 2 volumes of the Chinese Tripitaka, which records very ancient texts, the Āgama, Ahanjing. Okay. Now then you come to the theme. If someone asks you, what is this sutta about? Then you just look at it and say, oh, it's about the 5 sides and their meanings. Okay, so this is the blurb, the introduction. Okay. Now after this, lots of notes you can read on your own. I'm going to go straight into the translation. Okay, about 12 pages down. Okay. Page 205, yeah, there you are, Majjhima Devaduta Sutta, the Discourse on the Divine Messengers, M130. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in Anathapindika's park in Jeta's Grove near Savatthi. There the Blessed One addressed the monks. Bhikshus, So here the Buddha teaches unprompted. He feels the monks are ready, sitting quietly there, ready to listen. So he decides to teach. So he addresses the monks. The moment he says bhikshus, there is this communication. And the monks reply, Bhante, so you can hear them together say, maybe putting their palms together and say, Bhante. So they're ready. It's a very sonorous sound. It's not just monks, by the way. There are also nuns, laymen, laywomen, laywomen who are sitting on at the side. The monks are addressed. Well, usually only the monks are addressed. Usually, sometimes even sometimes nuns are addressed, sometimes lay people are addressed. But usually the monks, because the monks are always there, and the monks are ready audience, and through the monks, the suttas are preserved for us today. Buddha Gosha, the commentator, took pains to remind us that the word bhikshu here doesn't refer to monks alone. It's what in literary language is called a synecdoche. Synecdoche meaning a short form. Okay, so bhikshu here is a short form for everyone present. We are present today here, 2,500 years later. So this sutta is still alive to us today. The teaching is handed down to us. So when the Buddha says bhikshus, is referring to us also as listeners. Because when you sit here listening, you have renounced your home for a while, you renounce your work for a while, you renounce things you like doing for a while. Here you are sitting peacefully. As a renunciant, you have attained what's called bhikkhu bhava. You have attained that temporary mental state of a monk, a renunciant, listening to the Dhamma. It's a beautiful state. So just remember this, all right? So you notice just this first passage is so beautiful, right? And then the monks respond, Bhante. Bhante is simple. It's a simple word, just like in Malay we say Tuan, sir, Venerable sir. Okay, so it's a word which the Buddha used, which the monks use to address the Buddha and address other senior monks. So they replied in essence to the Buddha. The Blessed One said, okay, so now you notice there's a heading, the parable of the two buildings. I've added in this so that it's easy for you to have an idea of the heading. This is a famous metaphor parable of the two buildings about rebirth. Section 2, bhikshus. Bhikshu is anglicization. It's made English. Bhikshu is Sanskrit. I use this because this is found in many English dictionaries. So it's not actually Sanskrit, it's actually an English word. It's already adopted into English, so I use this. It's not that I like Sanskrit, but it sounds very English. I mean, you can use bhikkhu, lots of translators use bhikkhu, but I thought bhikshu sounds more fluid, yeah? Bhikshus, suppose there were two buildings with doors, and a man with good eyesight standing there between them were to see people going in and out, passing to and fro between them, and walking across. So here there's this man, he's standing between, he can see two buildings. So the two buildings represents two lives, okay, life A, life B. And people are moving around back and forth, so they are reborn, dying, reborn, and so on. So here the Buddha is indirectly mentioning rebirth. Okay, in fact, this parable, this metaphor is famous. It's found in a couple of other suttas, and if you look at the footnotes in the latest version, you'll see the sutta references also. So then the Buddha said, how you know these things? 2.2. Even so, do I, bhikshus, with the divine eye that is purified and surpassing the human eye, see beings passing away, reappearing, inferior and superior, fair and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate. I understand how these beings fare according to their karma thus. Indeed, these worthy beings who were accomplished in good conduct in body, in speech, and in mind, not revilers of the holy saints, the Aryas, holding right views, affecting their right views in their actions, effecting their right view in their actions, in other words, putting right view into action. with the bodies breaking up after death, they reappeared in a happy destination in heaven. So the Buddha is telling us, how does he know all these things? So he says he has this, through deep meditation, is able to see past lives. And he sees how good people, keeping the precepts and so on, good karma, they practice good karma through their bodily action, the first 3 precepts, through speech, the 4th precept, and then in the mind, okay, the last precept. Okay, and of course there are other precepts included. And habitually doing this good karma, they are reborn in a happy state. And then on the other hand, conversely, those who do good deeds, they are reborn as human beings. So this is the next section. I've summarized it, 2.4. So they do all these good deeds and they're reborn as human beings. They're happy human beings, good human beings who are able to practice the Dhamma. On the other hand, there are those who are on the opposite side, who create bad karma for themselves. They talk bad about the Buddha, they talk about the Arahats. That sounds familiar, isn't it? Take, for example, the writers of the Lotus Sutra. They attack the Arahats. That's the example of what is wrong. They're attacking the holy saints. And they have wrong views and so on. So they become departed beings. Okay? Okay, let me just go back a bit. Actually, you find the Buddha mentioned 2 kinds of happy states. Okay, those who do good deeds, they're reborn as devas and they're reborn as humans. Okay, so and they're happy. Then those who do bad karmas, section 2.4 onwards, they're reborn as pretas. And then you go further down, 2.6, you know, reborn in the animal womb. And then the last one, 2.7, reborn in hell. Okay, so you have, these are the 5 realms. 2 are happy ones, the human realm, the Deva realm. Of course, human realm is in between. The human realms can also be a suffering state, but here human realm is understood to be a happy state because we can practice the Dhamma. The other 3, the Preta state, the animal state, and the hell are suffering states. Now, in this sutta, we'll pay attention to the last one. Just one word, hell. Okay, there's only one word here, because in the ancient suttas, the earlier sutta, there's only one word, niraya, suffering states. Okay, now don't bring in all the ideas of hells from other religions, because the Buddhist hells are very different. Okay, you can say these are mental states, if you like, for a simple introduction. In the early sutta, there is just this one word, hell, kind of a suffering state. But as the suttas develop, these hells get elaborated. The various reasons, you know, scholars have been studying all this. One reason is because the kings have been punishing and torturing their prisoners and so on. So the Buddha uses example of this. He said, well, you see all these kings, you know, doing all these terrible tortures, you know. So hell is like that. That's how suffering is like. So in other words, here the Buddha is trying to impress on us what is meant by suffering. Well, we don't really know suffering. That is one of the problems of being a Buddhist, you know, today. We're all enjoying good karma in a way, living in, you know, like in Singapore or some happy place. And we don't really see suffering. Even when there's COVID, you know, we're still, you know, kind of quite safe here. We are happy here. And then this COVID is kind of like slowly ending. If we really know suffering, then we would think differently. In a sense, we would be better people. We would be better people if we know Buddhism and we seriously practice it. So this sutta is one example where the Buddha is trying to tell us there is this aspect of life which is really painful, and we should understand what it is, coming from bad karma. Now the Buddha tells the story of how this happens. Okay? And this is an amazing story. Now the first part is a bit frightening, so be patient with me. Remember the advice I gave you at the start, compassion, do not identify with the body, let go of all those 3 negative roots, greed, hate, delusion, things like that. So just look at it like a tour, like you are a tourist. You're being brought by the Devas to see all these suffering states, and you're watching from afar. So now the Buddha tells the story. Let's look at section 3 now. Now, bhikshus, the hell wardens see such a being by both arms and present him to King Yama, saying, all right, now look at this first. The story has begun. The Buddha is, what language is the Buddha using? The Buddha is using a story-based approach. In fact, another way of looking at this is the Buddha is using a person-based approach, Pugaladitana, okay? Pugaladitana means he uses people, persons, beings. So this is a story. Then there is Dhammaditana, like the 5 aggregates, that one is pure Dhamma, okay? So this is a story, remember that. Of course, in your mind, you may say, oh, it's not real. That's not true either, okay? What is real? What we create in our mind, the pain we imagine in our mind is more real than what is outside. The mind is like that. Right? So hell works like that, okay? So if someone does a lot of evil deeds, the pain is real. Okay? You don't see it, but this person sees it. So this is karma, right? Okay, so the hell warden comes and drag this bad doer. So who are the hell wardens? Our karma, okay? Dragging us to face our desserts, the fruits. So the story goes that these hell wardens, this what can we say, those who are taking charge of the hell state, they drag this person with bad karma to King Yama. He's called a king, but he's just someone in charge. It's a terrible duty. So he sits there in judgment, so to speak. Not exactly judgment in the God idea sense, but we'll find out what actually he's doing in a while. So this hell wardens bring this person before King Yama and say, Sire, Your Majesty or Lord, this man has no respect for his mother, has no respect for his father, has no due respect for recluses, holy men, has no respect for the Brahmins, these are the priests and teachers, the good priests and teachers, has no respect for the elders of the clan, right? So notice that we're talking about social harmony. Yeah? Let the king order his punishment, all right? Okay, here notice the hell warden say, we await your instructions. But there's something very interesting you notice later on. King Yama does not actually give out any punishment. Okay, this is only what the hell wardens speak. It's very interesting. I want you to notice this from the start. This hell warden acts like like storytellers telling us this is what happens to these bad guys. Then bhikshus, King Yama questions, presses, and parleys. Parleys means speaks with them, with this person with bad karma, about the first divine messenger. My good man, did you not see the first divine messenger appear amongst humans or in the human world? And then this man says, I did not see Bhante, right? Then bhikshus, King Yama says, all right, so since this man said he did not see, then King Yama describes this first divine messenger. My good man, have you never seen amongst humans a young infant lying prone, foul in his own excrement and urine? So he said, have you not seen a newborn baby? All right. So this is the first sign in the 5 signs in this sutta. Have you not seen a baby? So this man with bad karma says, yeah, yes, I saw Bhante. Then Bhikshus King Yama says, my good man, did it never occur to you, an intelligent and mature man, I too am subject to birth. I am not free from birth. Surely I had better do good through body, speech, and mind. He says, I was unable to, Bhante. I was negligent, Bhante. All right. So here we see King Yama telling this man with bad karma brought before him, have you not seen an infant? And the man says, oh yeah, come do you think I have? Then King Yama says, now you're intelligent, right? You're mature, right? So notice here, intelligence and maturity, our knowledge brings us suffering, but our wisdom will free us. So now I want you to use your wisdom to understand this sutta so that you are free from the suffering implicated by this sutta, or at least you understand the background of the story and you will not suffer, right? So this man says, yes, I've seen this sight, but it didn't occur to me that I'm subject to birth too, because I was negligent. So that's the reason why he fell into hell. Negligent, in other words, didn't keep the precepts, didn't bother to study suttas, basically didn't attend to his spiritual needs, his personal growth, basically. Okay, so this is the first part, and then the King Yama says, my good man, through negligence you have failed to do good deeds through body, speech, and mind. Body, speech, and mind, these are called the three doors of karmic action. This, my good man, will surely work on you according to that negligence. So saying, because of this, you're suffering. This bad deed was not done by your mother or your father. So don't blame your parents, okay? Not by your brother or sister, or by your friends and companions, or by your kinsmen and relatives, or by recluses and Brahmins, or by the gods. This bad deed was done by you, and you yourself will feel the result. Okay, there you are. This is, karma is very personal. We do not suffer for our father's sins, for our parents' sins. No. We create our own karma, and we will suffer from it ourselves. Personal accountability, all right? So here you are very clear. So you want to know that teaching, this is the reference here in the Majjhima Devaduta Sutta. So here completes the first divine messenger, right? That of the infant. Now King Yama goes on to the second divine messenger. So section 5, then we choose King Yama, after questioning, pressing and parleying with him about the first divine messenger, questions, presses and parleys with him about the second divine messenger. My good man, do you not see the second divine messenger appear amongst humans? The King Yama doesn't mention one, it just says second messenger, and this man with bad karma say, I did not see Bhante. Then King Yama explains what the second messenger is. 5.2. Then Bhikshus King Yama says, my good man, have you never seen amongst humans a man or a woman aged 80, 90, or 100 years old, crooked as a rafter? Rafter is a beam above the old house. A rafter, bent double, leaning on the stick, trembling as he goes. Wretched youth long gone, with broken teeth, with grey hair, with scanty hair or bald-headed, with blotches all over his body. A very graphic description, right? An old man. This represents old age, decay. Then the man with the bad karma says, oh yes, I saw Bhante. Right? So he has seen, but he doesn't relate to it. So King Yama said, okay, you've seen all this, but how come you don't know that you too, that I too am subject to decay? I'm not free from decay. Then the man with bad karma said, I was negligent, Bhante, I was careless. Right? Then King Yama repeats the training. He tells this man, says, it's because you are negligent. See, you never relate to all this, what you see before you. Everything is teaching you, right? Here, you see this baby, you see this old man is reminding you that you too will reach this kind of state. And all these bad things you have done is not because of anyone else. You yourself have done it. Not even the gods are to blame. You yourself are to be blamed. And the bad deeds was done by you, and you yourself will feel its result. So notice this lesson, the second messenger. Now the third messenger, okay, section 6. Now King Yama says, okay, have you heard of the third messenger? And then the man said, no, I'm not heard. I didn't see. Then King Yama explains, okay, look at 6.2, second line. My good man, have you never seen amongst humans a man or a woman afflicted, suffering, gravely ill, lying foul in their own excrement and urine, lifted up by some and set down by others? Then he said, oh yes, I've seen that. I've seen these people suffering. But then King Yama said, have you not thought that I too am subject to disease? What does this mean? That I'm not free from disease? That means I should keep myself healthy. I should live a good life, and so that my mind is at peace. Even when I'm sick, I will not suffer so much. Right? So this man said he was negligent. And King Yama again reminds him. So it's a lesson. King Yama tells him, it's your fault. You see, you did not. You're not mindful. So don't blame anyone. You are responsible. So here the teaching again and again is self-accountability, self-responsibility. Now the fourth messenger, section 7. Then Bhikshus King Yama, after questioning and pressing the man with the third messenger, goes on to talk about the fourth messenger. But this man has never heard about this fourth messenger. So King Yama explains, okay? 7.2, second line. My good man, have you never seen amongst humans kings who, when a robber or criminal is arrested, inflicts various kinds of torture on him, having him whipped, caned, clubbed, having his hands cut off, his feet cut off, his limbs cut off, his ears cut off, his nose cut off, his ears and his nose cut off, having him subjected to the porridge pot, to the polished shell shave, to Rahu's mouth, to the fiery garland, to the flaming hand, to the blades of grass, to the bark dress, to the black antelope. Okay, so these are all different kinds of fanciful torture done by the king. Now, this is beginning to sound familiar, isn't it? These are the hell states. The tortures that this king used, they got really scary names. I'm not going to go into details. I don't have to. You know they're suffering. They're very painful tortures. And then the Buddha continues, says, to the meat hooks. I'm not going to read the extra details, okay? To the coins, to the lie picking, and then further down, to the pivoting point, pivoting pin, further down, to the rolled up straw mat, and having him splashed with boiling water, having him thrown to the dogs to be devoured, having him impaled alive on stakes, having his head cut off with a sword. So these are in real life historical events where kings and powerful people do all these tortures. This happens the Buddha's time during the pre-modern period. Of course, today we don't see all this, but we do see criminals going to court and so on. Things are more complicated now. You got the law and so on. Anyway, this is a time when things are simpler. So this person with bad karma says, oh yes, I saw all these people being punished. And then the Buddha goes on with the same instruction. He says, my good man, did it not occur to you, you're intelligent and mature, that you may be subject to all kinds of torture too? If you, right here and now, you'll be tortured by the king if you do bad things. Then this man said, oh no, I didn't think about that. So King Yama said, well, because of that you will suffer. You are suffering now, in fact. And this was happening because you didn't relate to what all these things that you see which are teaching you. And now it comes to the fifth and last messenger, section 8. Okay, I'll just go straight down to save time. The fifth messenger, So then this man with the bad karma said, "Oh no, I've not seen it, not seen him." Then King Yama said, "Okay, my good man, have you never seen amongst humans a man or a woman dead for a day, dead for 2 days, dead for 3 days, bloated up, livid, oozing with impurities?" Then this man says, "Oh, yeah, I've seen that. It's horrible, huh?" Then King Yama says, "Have you not thought about it? Have you not relate to it and say, okay, I too am subject to death?" But this man said, "No, I didn't think that way because I was negligent." So King Yama says, "There you are, because of this, not relating to reality, you are suffering." So let's have a recap here, okay, before the break. The King Yama, the Buddha using the voice of King Yama to teach whom? Teach us about 5 things. He said, well, you've seen a baby, that means we are born into this world. If you are born, there is suffering. Then you become old, you become sick, you get punished for all kinds of things, and then there is death, right? So these are the 5 messengers. You can simplify this by just remembering 3, the 3 Ds: decay, disease, death. Okay, then the other 2 are added in as the first and the last. No? So basically, the lesson is we should be reflecting on these 3 Ds: decay, disease, death, the basic reality of life. In one word, is impermanence. And if you do this, then you're less likely to break the precepts. You're less likely to do bad. You're going to be more careful, wiser about avoiding what is bad and doing what is right. Okay? So the first part, the interview, finishes. The next part is the interesting part, which we'll come to after this break. Okay, we'll take a 5 minutes break. So this King Yama is like a counselor. Okay, so he falls silent. This becoming silent is a very famous action. The Buddha also becomes silent, and there are other occasions. I've written a whole article on the silence of the Buddha, ST 44.1. Okay, so then the hell wardens torture him with a 5-fold pinion, and so make him suffer in different ways. Okay, you can read there. Okay, so notice here, King Yama doesn't do anything. The King Yama doesn't say, okay, send this man for punishment and so on. It's the hell warden who does it. And then 11 bhikshus, the hell wardens, throw him down and pare him with axes, right? And then notice what the bad karma refrain. Refrain, that means this verse or this lines keep repeating. There he suffers feelings that are sharp, piercing, racking pains, yet he does not die, so long as the result of that bad deed is not exhausted. And this repeats after every listing of suffering. Notice, he suffers feelings that are sharp, piercing, racking pains, great pain. Right? So we're talking about beings that are disembodied. They're not human in the flesh. So who is suffering here? It's the mind that is suffering. Okay. He does not die. Notice he does not die. That means this is not a physical body like ours. He does not die so long as a result of the bad karma is not exhausted. So it is a karmic suffering, and this is repeated many times. Section 13, then the bhikshus, the hell wardens, harness him to a chariot and drive him back and forth across fiery, blazing, glowing ground. So these are all kind of trying to tell us how this protracted suffering happens. People just keep on suffering because of the bad they have done. Then 14, next bhikshus, the hell warden, make him climb up and down the great mound of fiery, blazing, glowing coal. So this is another kind of suffering. Then you have the bad karma refrain, mention again how his pain is great, and then he keeps on suffering the pain as long as his karma is there. Then 15, you can see the highlighted words. there's this fiery, blazing, glowing metal cauldron. A big cooking pot is thrown inside, and these are very familiar. Okay. Then after these, you have what's called the Great Hell. So this is, let me just summarize. Okay. This is a big, like a chamber, which is really hot, fire burning all over. It's like a box. It's got four corners, northeast, southwest, and you got the bottom and the top, and it's all closed in. And this man, this being suffering, runs to the western wall, eastern wall, southern wall, northern wall. Right? He can't escape. Top and bottom are all closed up. Right? So the sutta goes on to tell us in details from section 18 onwards. Bhikshus, sometime or other at the end of a long period of time, there comes a time when the great hell's eastern door is open, or appears to be open. And this man thought, oh, I can get out. So he runs towards it, but then he finds the door is closed. And then he has to suffer all this pain in this really fiery, like a furnace. And then he runs to the western door. Same thing happens. He thinks it's open, but by the time he reaches it, running over all this hot, burning floor, and then the door is closed. And he goes to the north. Same thing. The door seems open, but when he reaches it, it's closed. And then the southern door, same thing. Finally, he reaches the eastern door. And the door is open, then it comes through it. Okay, so only the eastern door is open. Now, it's interesting that the eastern door should be open because the east seems to be an auspicious kind of direction. It's the direction which meditators would sit in the open air because, at night it's cold, and then when you sit facing the east, as the sun rises, it shines on you and you feel the warmth. So it's a kind of a happy direction. So this is the direction that this hell being is able to come out. But he comes out into more suffering. And now he goes into the hell of filth or excrement. There are all kinds of worms there biting him and causing him pain. Right? And then he gets out of that. He goes on to number 21. This time the hell is called the hell of burning embers. So it's all like hot charcoal, if you like. And then he suffers another kind of pain. And he doesn't die because of his karma. And 22, and immediately next to this hell is the hell of the Simbali tree. These are the trees, instead of leaves, they have the leaves are like swords, okay? So they cut people up. So he suffers that kind of pain. And then that pain goes on as long as his karma is there. And then 24, now we have something new. This is found even in the Greek mythology. You have this river, great river of caustic waters, like acidic waters. And he goes in, get eaten up by this acid and so on, and he doesn't die. Okay, so you can imagine, we're talking about description of pain. It's not exactly torture; it's about pain. And then 25, the hell wardens fish him out, like goods with a fish hook, fish him out. And then this a bit of nasty thing going on. These hell wardens are represented as quite nasty beings. So these hell wardens ask the man, how do you feel? And then this hell being says, oh, I'm hungry. Right? So the hell warden, what does he do? He feeds this hell being with a red hot metal ball. So because of his past karma, okay? Maybe he was a liar and so on. And then later the hell warden asks again, how do you feel? Say, oh, I'm thirsty. Then this hell warden pours molten copper into the mouth of this being. And this being feels terrible pain. So apparently the suffering or the cycle ends here. All right. Now there's something interesting here which I can tell you. There is a place in Singapore where you can see all these hells. And so Singaporeans know this place very well. It's called Pasir Panjang. Pasir Panjang is south of the island, the place where the Japanese landed and invaded the country. So there is a park there where this Tiger Balm Company, they have it's called Haupa Villa, the Haupa brothers. They've donated some money and turned this to a park of figurines made of cement. And you have the house there according to the Chinese tradition. And it's quite a gruesome place. You can see all this, what we read here, made into little figurines in cement and colored and so on. You can even go through the mouth of hell and come out the other end, but you'll be safe anyway. So we have all these kind of reminders of pain. Now, this is not what really the story is about. This is why I didn't, give much attention to this. It's what happens next. It's what I want to draw your attention. Section 28. Okay, King Yama is watching all this that's going on. So King Yama, in a sense, is someone like us, someone wise and thinking, observing, watching all these things going on repeatedly. Now, I want you to imagine King Yama sitting there, telling this hell being one by one. And you know how many millions of hell beings there are. And he has to repeat this instruction one by one, one by one. It's not like talking to a million people using Zoom like now. He has to talk to them one by one. It's a voice that talks to the individual. So can you imagine what kind of job this is? He has to repeat this instruction over and over. It's not a very good job, right? So 28, it occurred in the past, bhikshus, that King Yama thought, okay, the Buddha is talking here, so say long ago, it happened to King Yama. Those amongst humans who do bad, unwholesome deeds, indeed, have all these diverse kinds of tortures inflicted on them. Oh, that I might attain the human state. Right? So here, King Yama says, I think I want to become a human. I want to be a Deva like this. So King Yama is a kind of a Deva. He's not a hell being. That a Tathagata, the Buddha, thus come, worthy and fully self-awakened, might appear amongst humans, that I might wait on that Blessed One, and that the Blessed One might teach me the Dharma, that I might come to understand that Blessed One's Dharma. So there you are. This is the amazing part. You find King Yama himself saying, oh, I'm tired of this job. These people don't seem to learn anything. So I want to build myself up. I want to train myself spiritually. I want to be free of this samsaric job, right? So King Yama is not a very pleasant job. It is a samsaric job. It's a repetitive job. So you see this amazing development in the story of hell, which we must not forget, right? So what is all this telling us? That we are talking about karma, we're talking about how we create this hell within us. So, Neil Gaiman once says, and I posted this saying of his in the Facebook recently. He says, hell is not a place you go to, but it is something that you bring along with you wherever you go. It's that mental state of suffering that we create for ourselves. Right, so the Buddha says, bhikshus, I tell you this not as something I've heard from another recluse or Brahmin. I tell you this as something I've actually known for myself, seen for myself, discovered for myself. Remember, through his divine eye. In other words, the Buddha has seen all the sufferings in different parts of the world. Even today, you see some parts of the world, this kind of suffering where people still get tortured, where the bombs and all kinds of terrible killing and mangling. And imagine the Buddha go through many lives. He has seen all this suffering, so he has seen all these things. So he's describing, in essence, through many, many lives, how this suffering occur. So these are not just stories, they are based on real situations, but the description are, of course, in the story form. The idea is to depict, to present to us this suffering which is real. Then the sutta closes with this kind of summary verses. Though warned by the divine messengers, human beings are still negligent. Long do they grieve as men fallen into lowly crowds or inferior worlds. Right? So we are caught in crowds, right? We follow that guru, this guru, and we learn all kinds of things, but we never really free ourselves from suffering. We are still caught in the crowd. And you know, insects like crowds. So we are reborn as insects. Fishes like crowd. So we're born as fish. Animals like crowd. We're born as animals, and so on. When warned by the divine messengers, the good people at peace here are not heedless, but practice well with practice well the noble Dharma. So we keep the precepts. We practice loving kindness, compassion, and so on. We practice meditation. We study the suttas to gain wisdom, like now. Seeing danger in clinging, for the birth and death it brings. By not clinging, they are freed. We are freed through the end of birth and death, which is nirvana. They dwell happily, having attained the secure. The secure here is nirvana. Perfectly cool here and now. Notice, perfectly cool. Oh, the fires of hell have all died down. The fires of great hate, delusion have all died down. Beyond all hate and fear. Notice fear is mentioned. No fear. Having overcome all pain, all suffering. So the sutta ends here. So there you are. That is the Majjhima Devaduta Sutta.